Welcome back to episode 47 of the Xbox North podcast. This week we discuss Starfield and their musical score, Xbox Series X&S dominating in sales, and Xbox Japan Publishing working on a groundbreaking games. We also discuss Sega's potentially bringing back 2 franchises with huge budget. With that out of the way, please like, subscribe, and share this out if you can. But Dan, how's Elden Ring been going? So that's what Dan's been playing. So.
Yeah. Well, we've both been playing it. We've been helping each other out, working our way through, getting some new skills and stuff, and weapons and armor and everything. It's been interesting. It was. I used a little guide to kind of snake my way up and get some stuff early on, so that I'd have a little more power to start with, so it wasn't too overwhelming. And that was, I think, a good choice. I mean, I feel like there's almost 2 ways to kind of play the game, and it's like I played Skyrim when I was younger, like when I had a lot of time, and just like went through each thing and started like, doing each little quest and like finding it and discovering it on your own and everything. And then now that I'm older and I don't have as much time for video games, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to look up a guide for this immediately. I'm going to get my way through here.
But that's the nice thing about games like Skyrim and Elden Ring. The game is so open, and they open everything up right away for you that you can kind of beeline to certain things and then kind of recenter yourself. So I did the same thing. I did this like quick guide to get all these things really quick. And then I did the XP one that you sent me where you can kill that huge elder dragon and get like a ton of runes off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
And it just makes that starting zone a lot more approachable, considering the game really doesn't tell you anything but guides you in a certain direction. And how do you feel about the kind of unknown waters you go through in this game?
It's very interesting. Like I actually kind of like it this way a lot more. It makes me feel like I'm playing games like Myst back in the day and everything. And sometimes Skyrim and stuff too, like or like really Morrowind or Oblivion kind of started to fade away from that a little more and everything, but they were very much based on like, okay, you read something in a book, you actually have to make sure you read the book and everything, because something in that book might actually be the next puzzle piece to get to a thing on this quest line that you don't really even know you have. It doesn't really tell you you're on a quest. It's just, okay, this stuff is happening and everything, and as long as you're paying attention and you know what's going on, you'll be fine. But paying attention isn't always the easiest for a lot of us gamers, so that's where the guides come in a little better and everything. And yeah.
And I feel like this game takes it to another level where Skyrim, there is some guidance. There's quest markers on your compass and stuff.
Yeah.
This game has nothing like that at all. And there's obscure things like, oh, I rode past this ruin and I heard the howl of a wolf. And then you go back to the starting area where the merchant is, and now he has a new dialogue option talking about this guy, and he gives you a gesture to go like see him. And if you didn't look that up on line, like you can never talk to that guy again.
Like go back to that other trader at some point and just been like, okay, yeah, no, I'll talk to him, I guess. Like see what he has to sell, because I'm finally like, it could be like endgame by the time you get there and realize that you can unlock this guy.
Yeah. And it's so detailed, and there's always an item around every corner, and it feels like everything is worth actually exploring in this game. But going back to, like, there is no quest markers or anything. I really wish there was kind of a little more guidance to the game, because I feel like there's this actual really beautiful opening sequence where when you walk out of that tomb at the beginning, you see this big open world, but not a lot of it. You see a potential of it. And then you see the church in front of you. You go to the church, and everything's very visual. And then, you see that kind of, it guides you up the path, and then you go up to the path and you see the ruins, and you can kind of work your way through those ruins at first. But I like how the game also tells you, like, when you go through you clear the ruins, and then you would figure you go through the big gate right there up into Godfrey's castle. But then when you get there, the huge giant just slams right in front of you. And that's the game kind of telling you, like, no, turn back and explore further, south.
Yeah.
And then the game kind of pushes you south, and then you get more powerful, and then you feel like you can go back to that gate, destroy that monster, and work your way up to that castle. And then, man, like, I know I'm going on and on, but man, when you get into that castle and then go through everything, and you go through like the most detailed castle I've ever experienced in a game, that's just like you're sneaking through the roofs, like you were saying, like, I can't believe this, like, this roof way is the main way to go. It's so realized. But then after you go through all this, like, you've been playing the game for like 20 hours at this point to clear this first area. And then you finish this huge castle and you feel so accomplished when you beat that last boss. And then it guides you outside the back of the castle, and then it just shows you it's like the game has two step out moments. The step out moment at the start, and then the step out moment at the back of Godfrey's castle, where it's just like, no, that was just like a quarter of the game. Like, look at everything in front of you.
That you just fought and like thought it was basically like an end game boss. Like, no, he's just the first guy. He's just the first like little guy. And they even like reiterate that as you're talking to them about the story and everything. They're like, no, like everyone else is like descendants from this big like goddess type queen lady and everything. And he's like a like sibling of a sibling sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like his like divine blood is like watered down like no tomorrow, and he's just insane.
Well, and I was looking up the lore of him. He calls himself Godfrey, Lord of the Golden or something like that. And then when you look at the name at the bottom, it's Godfrey the Grafted. And there's like even like just little lore dialogue between like the lady you meet up front of in the shack. She'll talk about like he's, trying to get people's powers and grafting other people to him. So I love how the game like just sprinkles a little lore to you. But God, when you walk out the back of that castle and then you see that massive castle just in the distance with...
See, there's way bigger castles.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, you thought that castle's big? Like, you have no idea what you're in for, like, coming up. And the game is amazing. Like, I finally understand what Souls people are like. I kind of makes me want to think about going back and playing like Dark Souls or something like that.
It's the right amount. I feel like this one's the right amount of challenging. Like I always felt like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and stuff were a little more challenging than this one actually is. Like I feel like they were a little less forgiving for you and everything. This is supposed to be one of the most forgiving ones out of them, and it's hit that sweet spot of just like exactly where that difficulty should be. Where it's like, okay, I get into some of these other areas, they're very difficult. And like even in the like starting area, like I'm almost level 50 now, and going through the starting area, just like clearing out some places and everything. But I still feel like some of the bosses are still just that little bit of difficult, just because they're difficult to fight. And I'm getting better, and they're definitely a lot easier than they would have been at the start of the game. But I know that I'm getting better, and it feels good to do that. It's a weird, perfect balance they've managed to work out on it. The only thing I'm really disappointed with Elden Ring is I think the multiplayer really. And like the way they did it is good, but I think it's just a little too restrictive, I think. I understand what they're going for. Like, they just want like little tidbits of help here and there and everything. They don't want everybody just working their way through super quick because they've got two buddies with crazy weapons and everything that can just walk you through the game. But it's still, it'd be nice to have it a little more open than that. So
I feel like considering the game is so earn your keep for it, that a more open multiplayer should be like the New Game Plus. New Game Plus is completely open multiplayer or something like that.
Yeah.
Something to like earn that co-op, that more special, that more in-depth co-op. But yeah, the multiplayer is, it is weird, man.
Yeah. And so just to explain to some of our viewers who maybe haven't played or don't know how the multiplayer works exactly, basically in each area as we go through, and we were just discovering this ourselves, was just like as you go through and you start to beat some of the bigger bosses of each little area that you're in, then it slowly starts to lock down the multiplayer settings. You can also, when you're in somebody's session, if you die, it boots you back to your world, or once you defeated the said boss in the area, then it boots you back to your world as well. So after beating Godfrey, we figured out that we can no longer co-op in that castle, which is frustrating because there's still a few little smaller bosses and everything in there that we can still go and fight. And it'd be handy to have a hombre with me to fight those guys, but it is what it is, and I made it through.
So I gotta go back, and there's an item in the castle that I really want, something so I can use my magic.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like I don't know what they call it, like something you hold in your hand.
Talisman or something?
Yeah, the talisman, yeah. So I got to get back into there and just do a bunch of things, but I'm just doing that exploit right now to level up because I'm getting my ass whooped, so. But I really love the... Sorry.
I was going to just say quick, I also figured out that the weight of how many weapons you have to switch through, because you have like 3 slots for your main weapon and 3 slots for your secondary hand weapon. If you have stuff in those slots, just even sitting there, it counts all towards your weight.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, because my guy cannot carry a lot of weight. And so I figured that out. And I was just like, okay, so if I put my swords away, I actually can use this sweet new armor that I got because it's just a little heavier. It's like 2 pounds heavier than the armor I was wearing, but that was putting me in the heavy mode, which slows you down, like the heavy load, which slows down your rolls and makes it just a whole lot clunkier to play in. Yeah,
I'm so close to being able. I'm so close to being able to use my scythe, so I'm gonna be like this Reaper like build. So I can't wait for that.
Considering using that too, it looks cool.
It has a lot of faith. You need a lot of faith to carry it.
Yeah.
But I really love the hitboxes in this game. Like the scythe has like this hit he does like on the left side of them. If they're holding the shield, it kind of just like arcs around the shield just a little bit. Like the hitboxes are so precise in this game. It is very
and it really plays into the dynamic like combat and everything that we get because you get to dive roll like under a leg of one of the bosses or something, or like through one of their attacks as they're attacking. Like there's been so many times where I'm surprised in most other games, like you just get hit with a big swiping attack if you're anywhere in that area. But it's like if you jump even just a little bit over like a tail swinging at you or a fist or just like a hair out of the way of like a big slam down or something, like you'll save yourself from most, if not all, damage.
Yeah, it makes the combat that much more exhilarating because it really makes seeing an opening that much more enticing to go after. Like you'll take that extra risk because you're like, oh, there's that opening. You just want to hit them in that more vulnerable area because it makes a difference in this game. Also, when you're in a tight corridor and your sword is too big to swing in there and that happens to you for the first time, you're just like, oh man, you almost have to go in and change to like more of a straight weapon at that point.
Yeah, I was struggling with that for a little while with my katanas because they always do like a swinging attack and knocking out the skeletons and everything in a little tomb area that I was in was really frustrating because I could knock them down and like take them out, but then their bones would slowly resurrect and everything. And as I was doing that, if I was too close to them, I'm just hitting the wall, and it doesn't stop them from resurrecting and destroy them completely. So
I find using a dagger.
Yeah, I got a Rapier, or Rapier, sorry.
Mhm.
That's a special, like, +8
It sounds
one or
even
whatever.
more inappropriate.
Right? I know, me and my wife were talking about that the other night, too, because I was like, Rapier? She's like,
Rapier?
or Rapier? And
Yeah.
she's like, no, it's Rapier. And I was just like,
Yeah,
okay,
I
but
looked it up.
she's like, it's still kind of uncomfortable to say, though.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
don't read the lore on this knife, believe me.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it's got like more of like a pokey attack than a swinging arc or anything.
So yeah, no, I use daggers when I'm like in a tight situation. So
yeah,
the game is just it almost feels infinite. It almost feels like I will never get through this game.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I just got everything in the first zone, and then the next zone is even bigger, and then the next zone after that is bigger, and then there's a whole underground area that's, I hear, almost just as big as the top area. So it feels like there's so much we haven't
I've barely scratched the surface, and like it feels like I should have played through the whole game by now.
Yeah.
It's
funny,
amazing to have just that much content coming at you, and like, oh, it's beautiful.
And I can understand why some people are put off by this game because it's so grueling. And it sounds so like cliche to say, but if you like games like Skyrim and like gameplay like Zelda, like the lock-on kind of gameplay, man, you owe it to yourself to play this game. And I know a lot of people say, oh, do the get good. No, you don't really have to get that like amazing at it. Do a couple of things that me and Dan said, like follow those guides at the beginning and level up, and you will find yourself getting good, actually, and finding the charm and the appeal to this game, because it's truly like nothing else. And the people who say this game doesn't have good graphics, I'm like, you're nuts. This game looks crazy. It looks like crap in some points, but...
And most of the guides I even found, too, didn't really spoil any storylines or anything either. No. It was just like, okay, you can just kind of skip past a few things, gain all these, like, you get a sword here, you get some armor here, you get an ability or whatever here, and then you go right back to the beginning and actually start off. And he's like, the few people that you do talk to, like, pay attention to what they say. Talk to them all the way through all of their dialogue options, and you'll understand, like, what's going on. And you just scratch the surface of it. Like, I only talked to like 4 or 5 people or something, and I just got their opening dialogue stuff, basically. Like, I talked to them every time I could, until they were repeating the same thing, because they reiterated that you really want to do that. But it was just the very surface. Now I'm going through like Rapier's quest line and everything, and I'm learning more about what needs to be done for him and like what he's explaining to me. And he starts giving me all this lore about the Elden Ring and everything, and what happened in the background, and these assassins that like came and how they killed the one Elden Lord at the time and everything, and just like shattered the order to things. It's a very detailed and complex storyline, which you really got to get into. I've really found nobody started to explain it that well and felt they could very easily explain the storyline. It's something you definitely got to spend the time on to learn and understand, but it's a good storyline, and it's cool just seeing all these quests and interesting things that I get to do.
Yeah, and I look forward to the future of this game because I feel like it's going to get bigger. Like, you look at the map and there's some areas in the ocean that have these huge, like, swirling clouds over them. And I'm just like, those are going to be areas you can go to as DLC. This game is too successful to not have, like, a nice expansion pack. The expansion pack for this game, I would buy that in a heartbeat, like, easily. I would be super excited to have that.
Especially once and there's already replayability in it. Like, as soon as you get to New Game Plus and everything, like, there's already so many things I want to do in New Game Plus, just to go through and redo things a different way or figure out something different or tackle guys earlier so they're a little more challenging. Yeah. Change just the specs on my guy and see like, okay, well, maybe I want to try something different. Because when I first started, and seriously, if whatever character you start with, however you start playing, just stick with it for a while. There's apparently at least 18 respec options, like little items in the game through each playthrough to get to respec your character. And honestly, just stick with it and go through, because there's no point restarting a character. You just keep getting more powerful. So there's really no reason to not just keep playing it.
I feel like they're going to add like a vendor that will let you respec, because after you get to, like, especially if you get to max level, you should just let them respec at any time just so they can experiment. And maybe, I find a boss that keeps on beating you, and just experiment with like finding his dead zones, how to dodge, where to dodge, either dodge forward or back, left, right, or even if you can parry some things with your shield, how much attacks you can take. And even if you die a bunch of times, just keep on kind of like learning your limitations, because the game truly feels like the gameplay is good enough to actually like learn, and it feels like you're learning, and you're like learning your opponent, which is, it's really refreshing, which is cool. But man, honestly, we could talk about Elden Ring probably.
We could talk about this the whole show, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into the show. I've been doing well, but I've been playing exactly as Elden Ring myself. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, let's get into the topics of the show. So first topic I want to get into is Starfield. So it looks like we got some more news on the upcoming Starfield from basically what they did show off in this kind of Vidoc they had. So it looks like they've been, and we talked about this a couple shows ago, but they do like these Vidocs every once in a while. It's about 6 minutes long. And this one talked about the orchestral theme to the game and how they created it even before starting development, like hardcore development on the game. They had some artwork and stuff like that to give to the artist who's doing the score to kind of get some inspiration. But they said the kind of philosophy of Bethesda is to start with the theme, and then the game kind of grows from the actual theme music itself. And how do you feel about that approach?
Oh, it's cool. It's a really interesting concept too, because they go in and explain it very well and detailed in this vid doc too, just about how the feel of the music and everything, because it generates feelings in you and everything. And it's very much about that opening theme. They were basically saying is how you're presented the first of the game, and that's how it starts to like play through the rest of the game and everything too, because like he said, the absolute hardest part is writing that first theme song, because that's what you open to, that's what all of the game is about and everything, and the rest of the music just kind of follows that main theme after that. And like there's crescendos and like low points and everything. There's like sad music and beautiful music, but it all kind of follows the same beginning theme. Yeah. And it was amazing to even see just like their side of how they put the music together and how they're deciding these things, where they're having like they described the wind instruments in the background were playing not actual melodies or anything, but actually little notes that sound very like space-like almost, and like little pings and stuff, and like little notes here, all in a pattern that keeps repeating and everything. So it sounds like it's almost like Morse code closer to than just like a song or something like that. And it was interesting to see all of that and see how it affects like everything going into the game after that. How he was describing just the points in the music where like something happens in the game and the music just happens to fit perfectly in there just because there's a song, like a music change right at that point or whatever. And like, it's not even intentional. Like a lot of the time, like it feels scripted and everything. Like you walk over a hillside, you see this beautiful, like wide open area and everything, and the music changes and it's just awesome. And so many people get their own personal little moments like that because they're not actually scripted. And it's just the way that beautiful music plays into your experience of the game.
Yeah, and especially a story-driven game, that note can hit at the right moment to set the stage for this epic adventure you're about to go on. And music can make such a big difference. Like I find Destiny is actually a great game to use music. Like especially in the raid, like I found that one raid from when you're doing the ice one and you get shot into space and you're doing the spacewalk at that certain point, and then the music starts like cutting in, and it just brings this like kind of crazy adventure moment. And anyone who like turns off music on their video games, like you have no soul.
I only do it after. That's all.
Yeah, I only do that after I beat a game, or if it's like some grinding thing I'm gonna do at the moment. Like probably in Elden Ring, I will probably turn off the music for this part where I'm just and put on a podcast. There's just some games where you can just do stuff like that, but I find music definitely sets a tone for a game. And especially after playing Elden Ring, hearing more about Starfield just gets me like really hyped, because I feel like Starfield will be another moment like Elden Ring this year, and it could be even a bigger game and moment than Elden Ring. For Elden Ring is very much a sequel to Dark Souls and kind of refines an already existing idea, but brings it to an open world, and the open world is truly like nothing else and very seamless. Starfield could bring that style of Bethesda game like Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, to just a whole new level of immersion and running on a new engine on new hardware. And this hardware, it's been around, like they've been developing on this hardware. Like think about this. They've been developing on this particular hardware by the time this game goes gold for at least 2.5 years, right?
Oh yeah.
So this game is going to be really optimized for next gen, and that's exciting, because where I see limitations in Elden Ring, because it is technically designed for a last generation game, and they push that open world to a level I've never seen. Just their presentation of things in the distance is really incredible.
Really well done.
So the fact that Starfield is completely designed for next gen, layered in with their new engine and sound effects, and like bringing this score, like I bet they can do so much more with the score because of the power of these consoles. And it just makes me excited. I feel like when Starfield drops, it's going to be like where Forza and Halo were kind of the appetizers of this start of this generation, but still on last generation. Starfield will be the moment of where we're finally here.
Next gen, yeah.
Like, how do you feel about Starfield? Like, are you getting... And like, we will have it. It's on Game Pass. Like, we know we're going to have it already. So
I've been excited for it probably like as long as the developers have been. Because like I remember way back when, like playing Morrowind, like early on, and just thinking to myself, like, man, it'd be friggin' sweet if they made a space game. And apparently, yeah, like pretty much all the way back then, they were just like, okay, well, we can either like, yeah, you know, make some Elder Scrolls games or whatever, or we could go in a different direction. And
Yeah.
like, it took this long to finally get all of that stuff together. Like, they've spent years and years and years just developing this and like creating the idea and making sure it was fleshed out and everything first. And then like they're just building this. And if Elden Ring is any example, like they'll be able to take things from that game and employ them into like Starfield. And hopefully we'll get to see improvements from there just because Elden Ring's been so successful and they had been doing such a good job at it.
Well, it makes me think that they still have enough time developing in this game, and their engine's probably malleable enough to see a game like Elden Ring and be like, maybe we shouldn't be as handholdy here. Maybe let's remove that marker there. Let's add an item over
hide
here.
Some stuff, yeah.
Yeah, let's add a little more mystery and pull back a little bit more of the hand-holdiness of the game and make it hardcore. I hope, actually, you know, like now looking at the success of Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is a successful game. Everyone in my friends list is playing that game. This game is like, reminds me of like back in the day with Halo 3 where everyone's like playing that one game. Yep. And because it's so big but mysterious and hardcore, they said that Starfield's going to be a hardcore Bethesda game, and I hope after seeing the success of Elden Ring, they're like, yeah, we're going to make this even... Yeah. I hope that reaffirms their decision, like makes them feel even better.
Yeah, not necessarily harder, but just like you get more immersed in the game that way. Just like it and it's funny because it actually kind of goes back to their roots. Like I said, when I was playing Morrowind and everything like that, there was those like times when it was just, okay, you're going to find your way through this area. You're going to like just read it in a book, and you're going to have to figure out, like, it tells you it's somewhere near this area, and it's over here, and there's some descriptive stuff, or maybe a crappy drawing, but it's like, okay, but you basically have to figure it out on your own. And I remember even, like, one exciting time when it was just, you're walking down a pathway, and for no reason, it's not actually a whole quest, but there's a whole story behind it, because a guy just comes flying out of the sky and slams on the ground and just dies. And you walk up to him and you check his body, and he's got a couple notes on him or whatever, and he's got these boots. And they're spring heel boots, they're called, or something like that. And basically what it does is it gives you the ability to jump super high and super far. And I think it's just a spell you can use like a few times or whatever. But at some point, like you need to use another spell called like the feather or something like that just allows you to take no fall damage or take less fall damage, because the only oversight that guy had was he wanted a long distance transportation method, but didn't quite realize that the landing was going to be a bit of an issue. So he made it work. You could go a long distance and just by jumping, but yeah, you want to be able to land and not die. So
yeah. And that's the great thing about some of the Bethesda games. Some of the side quests, they're so interesting. Yeah. And I'm very curious.
Pulled into paintings and stuff, and the whole look at the gameplay changes.
Well, but this will be like sci-fi, right? Sci-fi based. And how will like Elder Scrolls 6 be now that Elden Ring's out? I feel like Elden Ring will be like, you know, how everyone says like Breath of the Wild. Elden Ring is like another moment like that. And I'm curious if like I was saying earlier in the conversation, if we can get another moment similar to that out of Starfield, like we got out of Elden Ring. And I feel like Elden Ring, you got those 2 walkout moments at the beginning and then walking out of Godfrey's castle. That just, and I feel like I said, I feel like I've seen nothing, and I know I've seen nothing yet. So,
yeah. And it's just
Starfield,
such cool designs and everything too. Like just the enemies that you fight and the way that you fight them, they're all different. They're all diverse. Like I just fought like a cat statue that just floats up in the air and slams a sword down on top of you. Yeah. And even though I was much more powerful than I needed to be for that area, it was just like, okay, as long as I'm I'm rolling out of the way of him, I'll be okay. But there was a lot of times when I came pretty darn close to death.
Yeah. And I'm curious what the gameplay. I know it's going to be first person Starfield, but I'm curious what the gameplay will be like, because obviously it'll be more of a shooter because it's with guns. So I'm curious how visceral and just kinetic that gameplay is going to be, considering they have a lot of good companies under their belt, like id Software, some of the best first-person shooter companies under them. I always felt like they never really made a great gameplay kind of game. So I hope Starfield's gameplay is as good as its music and its world.
I think it'll be pretty good. I'm really hoping for a lightsaber of some sort.
Yeah, watch. That'll be buried in some hole somewhere.
Right? You'll definitely find something akin to that, but I'm sure they'll do some sort of throwback or something.
And I'm sure we'll be talking more about Starfield when they show more of it off later on this year. So looking forward to that. But let's carry on to our next topic. It looks like the Xbox success continues, with the brand having the best March sales in its history. That means higher than the 360. So clearly people want the Xbox this generation. I think it has a lot to do with the Series S and also Game Pass being super appealing. Going into store and saying, hey, do you want to spend $70 American, mind you, $90 Canadian on a brand new game, or just have Game Pass, and then if it's one big game that comes out that year, at least you can buy it and still have other games with it. So, and they've even said they had over 10 million people use cloud streaming as well out of these numbers. So Xbox is clearly back.
I think it's honestly like people were waiting for the announcement on PlayStation Plus, like PlayStation's streaming service and how they're going to handle that, or their game like presentation service that we're getting with Game Pass and everything. They were waiting to see what PlayStation had in their pocket for that. And I think a lot of people were disappointed. It's not living up to what like Xbox is giving out. So, like, why not? You go with it. You can get the cheaper console. You can get the Game Pass and everything, and you get all those games.
But I also think it has to do with you can't buy a PlayStation 5 right now. So, as a PlayStation fan, how annoying would it be to keep on going into your local Best Buy or GameStop and being like, the Xbox Series S is in stock. Oh, the X is there. They're readily available in stock now, it seems like. So console, and mind you, consoles always get to the point where they are readily available in store to go and just purchase a product and not have to hope you get the, stock coming in. So Microsoft has clearly gotten Xbox to the point where you can just freely buy the console. As a PlayStation fan, going into a store and seeing that all the time and not being able to buy your PlayStation 5, at that point I would be like, you know what? Like, screw it. I know Starfield's coming out at the end of this year. I know I want that. There's all these other titles, Game Pass. Screw it. I'm going to buy the S. And then I guarantee they'll be blown away from it. Yep. The whole reason I stick with Xbox is, one, I love Halo, and too bad what's kind of going on with Halo right now, but it comes down to also the services. Cloud saves work really good. Cloud streaming works amazing. Now Game Pass works amazing. All my friends are on there. It's the ecosystem that is the most accessible and just like pain-free. Like, can you believe it, on PlayStation 5, you have to upload your save to the cloud. You have to upload manually to the cloud. Like, that's outrageous. For us, it's just like, oh, it's right there. Like, it just it scales on any console. Yeah, it's just on everything. So it's those refined services that makes me stay on the platform, almost more so than the games. But knowing the future we have ahead of us with like Starfield and all the other games like were announced, like Avowed, Contraband. There's just a really bright future ahead, and knowing
Deathloop's coming.
Yeah, Deathloop, and knowing as a consumer all those games will be in Game Pass, and the fact that they're going to be purchasing Activision Blizzard, we're going to be getting Diablo in there, Overwatch, Call of Duty every year. Like it, at that point, it is you are essentially throwing money away. If you are a gamer that will be interested in any one of those titles, and I would be shocked if you're not, you are literally throwing money away on other platforms.
Even a lot of the like PlayStation exclusives are just timed exclusives now, like Deathloop. And it's like, with the amount of content that we're getting, like I ended up paying full price for Elden Ring just because it's that good of a game. And like, just like, why not? Like, you're getting so many good things right now, like, just there's more than enough to do while you wait for those timed exclusives to come out.
Yeah, exactly. And like it makes, when you finally do purchase a game, like you haven't purchased the game in so long. So when you bought Tiny Tina and Elden Ring kind of right in a row, you're just like, yo, I haven't purchased a game in like almost 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
So it doesn't make it that hard of a pill to swallow, but spending $90 in especially today's world, with gas prices being as much as they are, groceries being as much as they are, and inflation being as much as it is, life got dramatically more expensive in the span of 1 year than I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
So having a service like Game Pass is a godsend.
Nice.
And piggybacking kind of off that conversation about the success of Microsoft, well, in kind of back to the conversation as well. So it's really nice to see that their March numbers, like they are leading the way forward, and I can only see more growth going from there. But the fact that it sold more than the 360 generation just shows that whatever they're doing, and they're doing it right. And I feel like there's another market on the horizon that will even get bigger for them, and they're showing a lot of growth right now and kind of coming back, in my opinion. So piggybacking off our conversation there, Xbox Japan Publishing recently went on Twitter saying that they are expanding and working with top talent on groundbreaking titles and experiences. And as I was saying, Japan has been, in my opinion, showing a lot of success. There was kind of a lull period there for a while, and we've been getting games like Monster Hunter World, Resident Evil coming back, Persona, Final Fantasy 14 being one of the biggest MMOs in the world, and Elden Ring just taking the world by storm. It's showing that the Japanese development market and innovation coming out of that region is back. And I feel like there was, especially during the Xbox, at least the beginning half, and you can say tail end of 360 and beginning half of the One generation, Japan titles were kind of like not really innovating and nothing really standing out.
They were more PlayStation focused, I found. There was a lot of more like PlayStation exclusive, like Japanese based titles that were really succeeding, and they were exclusive to PlayStation that we couldn't get at, like the Ghost of Tsushima and like a few other games like that.
But I didn't feel like there was much like innovation coming out of there until we got I feel like from Breath of the Wild on, like when Breath of the Wild came out, you're like, holy. And then Monster Hunter World you get, and then Resident Evil 6 and 7, and now Elden Ring. We are seeing a lot of cool video game innovation coming out of there. Absolutely. And it's shaping the industry clearly. Like everyone says, oh, that Breath of the Wild moment. People are going to say that Elden Ring moment. And I hope we get another moment, like I was saying, with Starfield at the end of this year. But it's very refreshing to hear Xbox taking that market serious and trying to partner up with innovative developers. Because I want to see stuff like from the 360 days of games like Lost Odyssey or Blue Dragon or Infinite Undiscovery. There's a lot of potential in that market. And going back to, I've been saying that a lot, but piggybacking off our last conversation, talking about their sales having their best March ever, I feel like they really need to talk about numbers because they need to say to developers, look, we're almost at 20, maybe 20 million units sold on this console. We have this many Game Pass subscribers. Our console, even if you're not going to be on Game Pass, our ecosystem is a good place to invest in. People are making money off that. I think Elden Ring sold huge on Xbox. It's still number one on the list of best-selling games.
It was matching numbers that Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto was putting out. Like it was like,
and
meeting
it's still
and
selling,
like exceeding, like sales that matched, Grand Theft Auto, which is just insane.
I bet there's a lot of people like us who bought it a month, 2 months after it came out, and just finally. And push came to shove, and you're just like, I keep on hearing it, I keep on seeing it, I need it, and it's worth it. And especially for you, I bet like me playing it, I'm just like, no, it's all that in a bag of potato chips. Like it's definitely incredible. You should get it. Helped.
Oh yeah.
So I love hearing the word groundbreaking. So it makes me excited because these systems are powerful. I feel like we've not seen anything out of these consoles yet. And seeing what the next Elden Ring out of that region will be, the next Monster Hunter, gets me excited. And I love Japanese games. I grew up on Japanese games like Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy, Hack, Dot Hack, playing Dragon Ball Z games, watching anime and stuff. So I love stuff that comes out of that, building Gundams and stuff. I love stuff that comes out of that region, and it makes me excited for the future. Definitely the tail half of this console generation is going to be like packed. I feel like after 2023 or after 2022, it's just going to be game, and it's going to get crazy. But what would you, what do you like out of the Japanese market besides like Elden Ring right now?
Well, that's definitely one of my main focuses, but I don't know. I played a surprisingly few Japanese games because, like I was saying, a lot of them were like Final Fantasy and everything was more focused on the PlayStation back in the day and everything. I played Elden Ring. I've played some Final Fantasy stuff. I played a little bit of Metal Gear Solid here and there, and I don't know. I'm not sure which one would be my favorite either, but like right now it's Elden Ring.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I always focus a little more on like the Bethesda games and everything. I spent probably way too many hours in Skyrim just like ignoring other games.
Yeah. You know what? I bet now that we've played Elden Ring for a while, Monster Hunter World, the gameplay is almost very much like Elden Ring. I bet that game would probably tickle our fancy pretty right now. And I'm excited to see what Capcom has in store, because these new game engines are going to be incredible. So I just want to see very weird Japanese stuff come. Like Elden Ring is there's some of the weirdest stuff out of there in that game. So, and I just love, like I loved last year Scarlet Nexus. I thought that was super cool.
Yep.
And Game Pass was very successful for Scarlet Nexus to find a new audience. They even went on Twitter not that long ago thanking specifically the PC and Game Pass audience. It's funny because a bunch of PlayStation fans boys got on there and they're just like, what the fuck, man? Like, why aren't you thanking us too? I'm just like, who gives
more to your point even is like developers just coming over to Xbox and Game Pass and everything. It's like, even if they're not doing it immediately, like just making sure that it's coming out on Xbox, and like eventually even when it does come to Game Pass, you can always do the long-term strategy and leave your game out. Like Elden Ring. Elden Ring will probably be out for a long time, and then eventually it'll probably just come to Game Pass so that you can play it on cloud and you can play it on Game Pass. And anybody who hasn't played it up till then will get a chance to play it because they've got Game Pass.
There you go. And I see Elden Ring getting a lot of support for a while. The game is super successful. I could see them add in like a Coliseum. Apparently there's some DLC, like there's a Coliseum somewhere in the game, so they think that's going to become. So if they can make that like where duels can be more streamlined, like make like a actual like dual gameplay.
And they weren't like as bad as I feared either, like the invasions and everything. Cool. I felt like those were going to be so intimidating and like so scary at first, but now it's like I've even just like thrown down my marker just to have me pulled into somebody else's game, and just to have us start going through a castle and have somebody like jump on us like partway through, and they just show up out of nowhere. You just see them running down the pathway. It doesn't even tell you they're there or anything. And then you just see a guy show up. But a lot of the time it's even been like when you're more likely to have an advantage, at least early on so far. What I've experienced is like it's been when I have another person in the match with me, or like a couple other people in the game with me. And they've even got a system where you can call for help and basically have a hunter show up for you, and you can be a hunter if you choose this different item. So you just keep it on you, and like, yeah, whenever you do experience that stuff and you're having some issues with it, like, okay, here's a buddy to help you out.
There you go. But we could talk about Elden Ring all day. God, that game's so good. But keeping on the topic of Japanese, and this will be our next topic, so our last topic actually for the night. It looks like Sega is going to be bringing back some classic franchises like Jetset Radio and Crazy Taxi, but this time with a AAA budget. It sounds like a really big budget, they said. So this is all rumors going on right now, but man, if they bring back Jetset Radio, I'm going to be so happy. I love that game. It's one of the original. It was a Dreamcast game. It was called Jet Grind Radio, and then it came to the original Xbox. The sequel was Jet Set Radio. Dan, have you ever played Jet Set Radio? Are you a fan of this franchise?
I unfortunately have not. I keep hearing you talk about it, and I'm just like, oh, it sounds good. Like, I want to try it. I want to play some, but yeah, I haven't played much of it at all, if I have played.
So it's a super unique. It's a very unique game set in the future, or at least some kind of future. And you're rollerblading around. It has a crazy art style, wicked music. You're just doing graffiti. And I remember, and I'd probably go back to it now and be like, oh, this game is not as big as I thought it was. But the game just felt so huge when I was a kid. And I loved just like exploring this open world. It felt like there was always like a little like tag somewhere to like put, like it just really encouraged you to explore. Yep. And if they can bring that game back in an open world setting, oh man, Jet Set Radio could be so cool, and bringing an online aspect to that game would be amazing as well. So I feel like Jet Set has the real potential to be a real moment for Sega, and it could be a real cultural moment too, because it's so unique in its art style, and bringing graffiti into it. You can bring so much culture into that, I find. Look up like other graffiti artists, real graffiti artists, bring some of that stuff into that. And make the game like an expression of art, like I felt like it was, even based off the art style itself, and more customization. Just like really bring it into the modern era and make it online as well. I feel like Jet Set could be such a cool like pseudo like slash MMO style open world rollerblade, I don't know, playground. It's such a cool franchise, and it's been gone for so long, Dan. But like the Jet Set Radio came out in the original Xbox, like almost during the launch time. So in my opinion, it is due for a comeback. So I'm personally really excited. But the other franchise they were talking about, Crazy Taxi, did you ever get your hands on that when you were younger?
That I played some of. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Just like driving around. It was basically like it might as well have been like a Grand Theft Auto driving simulator back in the day. Like, yeah, just plowing from place to place, like taking
Uber
around.
The video game.
Yeah, exactly. Uber with Uber in the Grand Theft Auto universe, I'd say. It was a fun game to play. Can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah, I have myself on mute. I remember the game being super arcadey, like really, really, really arcadey. And I'm curious how, like, I can picture what a reboot and a reimagining of Jet Set Radio could be like. But Crazy Taxi, like when they said, out of this rumor, mind you, that they are looking to reboot and do a high-budget Jet Set Radio, I was like, awesome. No-brainer.
Watch them just partner with Uber to get the money to pay for it.
Yeah. And then they're like, Crazy Taxi? I'm just like, I can't picture... Well, like, I can picture what they do. They should just do the same thing again with better graphics, but it could be really fun, like, multiplayer to it and just, like, racing people's times. But to bring that game to a more modern audience, I can't really think of much more they can do than just, like, yeah, it's going to be like a straight-up party game, then, like, just pick people up and drop them off. But when you hear big budget, you're just like... like Crazy Taxi, it's going to be the most detailed open world you've ever seen. You can go to every floor of every building, you know? It's like, what can you get out of your taxi? Maybe they'll make it into an RPG. You can get out of your taxi and you're like a taxi detective and stuff like that.
Maybe they'll combine it into one and it'll just be Jet Set Radio Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, right? Or you're like, it's like a murder mystery. Someone dies in your taxi and you're going on this like crazy... like mission. They bring or they base Crazy Taxi in the world of like Yakuza or something. It's something weird. So I just don't know what they would do with a big budget. And they're working on that big super game right now. So I'm curious how these two will kind of work their way into whatever this super game is going to be.
Yeah,
I'm personally excited.
Just be a piece of it. Like they're just going to make a meta world with the like Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, and it'll all be virtual reality. Who knows?
Yeah, for real, right? Internet 3.0. But I'm excited. I love some Sega franchise, and I love me some Jet Set Radio. So if they are bringing those franchises back, I am 100% in for that, and Microsoft get these games on Game Pass, especially Jetset. Like the fact that Jetset Radio Future is not backwards combat, I'm pretty sure. It either makes me think they're going to be coming out with like a remastered, which would make sense, but they need to get this game on Game Pass. This is 100% a Game Pass game because of its lineage, in my opinion, of Xbox.
Yep.
So. But yeah, Dan, I think we made it. We and before we go, Elden Ring's the best. Elden Ring.
Just get it.
Yeah, just get it.
It's honestly, it's just worth it. Like no matter how intimidated you are by it. Like I even started out just being a wizard, like throwing some spells so that I could stand back and be like, okay, like don't hit me. Throw spells at you and everything. And like honestly, it worked out well for a while. But like it makes you want to get in close. It makes you want to fight with a sword and everything. And just some of the abilities, they're just super cool. Like it's worth it. Just go out and get it.
All right, Dan, take us home.
All right. Yeah, don't forget to smack that subscribe button on our YouTube page and tippity-tap that like button. Comment on our beautiful voices. You can find us on audio only on Spotify and Google Podcast. Just search relentlessly for Xbox North Podcast. We're also on Reddit and Instagram. Take a look for Xbox North Podcast. And of course, on Twitter.
On Elon Musk's Twitter.
Oh, yeah, on Elon Musk's new social network.
Twitter.
Yeah, because we don't have any other place to go other than Twitter just yet.
Yeah, for real. Until we get shadow banned. I don't talk that much crap.
Don't ban us, Elon.
Yeah, for
real. Night.